Hey everybody, this is Erman Brody with Erman Entourage. Thank you so much for being here. It is Saturday, September 19th. Once again, this entire day, this entire Zoom summit is going towards Operation Underground Railroad. So please check them out on Instagram at RRescue. That is OUR Rescue. Please check them out also at rrescue.org for more information on the cause. 100% of proceeds for this event and anybody who wants to donate to the link for the next month goes towards Operation Underground Railroad. So please check them out online whenever you can. Today, right now, we have Jim Cornish all the way from the UK. Jim Cornish is a storyboard artist of The Dark Knight, Wonder Woman 1984, which is coming up sometime soon. We'll see. It's 1917, one of my favorite war movies. Pokemon, Detective Pikachu, Spectre, Gravity, the Harry Potter series, Skyfall, and the upcoming Morbius, which I'm very excited about. Please, everyone, give a silent round of applause to Jim Cornish. See some hands? There you go. Jim, welcome, sir. Are you used to interviews? I don't know if many storyboard artists are interviewed a lot.
Yeah, not often. I've done a few conventions, bits and pieces like that. So yeah, I can talk. So I don't mind that.
Well, thanks so much for being here. I'm a writer. I know nothing about storyboard artist work, but it's always good to be educated and learn from others in the industry, even if it's not your field per se. So it's always great to have other creatives in the industry on our chats. So let's talk about the basics. How you got started in the industry? Why storyboard artists? I'm sure you didn't wake up just one day and said, "Hey, I'm gonna storyboard for movies." So what was your experience like, and how did you navigate into the industry as someone who wanted to work in storyboard art?
Like so many people of my age, I was influenced so much by the early Star Wars movies. Going to see them at the age of 11, and then seeing the art of Star Wars books and realizing that all the work that goes into creating a film, not just actors in front of the camera, but all the guys behind the camera. And that sparked my fascination and imagination and got me wanting to work in film, which is very difficult when you're right in the middle of industrial heartland of Britain and not in London, which is where I come from. So I just then got drawing and carried on practicing, went to different colleges, universities, and eventually studied film at a place called Kingston University, which is on the outskirts of London. And also learned art direction, went to prop houses, set deck. So I got a grounding in all things filmic, and knew from that point on that really what I wanted to do was storyboard. Because my degree was in graphic design and illustration, so that was kind of leaning towards rendering and drawing, and so then to marry that with film, storyboarding, concept art, visuals, keyframes, that was the area that I was heading towards.
So for anyone out there who does have an interest in storyboard art, is there like an actual ladder to climb? Because you're the first storyboard artist I've ever spoke to in my life. So I want to know, because I there's different avenues into the industry for people who are interested in the art aspect of filmmaking. Is there like a particular ladder to climb up?
I can't talk about it from a US standpoint. I can only talk about it really from a UK standpoint. I suspect it's very similar, if not exactly the same. In UK art departments, which tends to be where storyboard artists live, because we draw, we create visual information, it tends to be experience-based as much as anything. So if you come out of college or if you express an interest to storyboard, you'll then do pop promos, you'll start off doing commercials, and then when you've cut your teeth on commercials and promos, then hopefully you may work with directors that then go on to do television, and you may go in to do a little bit of boarding on television, and then hopefully you step it off and move into lower budget movies and higher budget movies. All the time you're gaining experience, all the time your language that you use is developing, and you're getting connections as well. So it's largely based on experience, and the more time you spend in the environment, the more people you know, and the more chance you have of stepping up and moving into higher budget films.
Amazing. And Jim, I hate to put you on the spot because I didn't prep you beforehand.
No.
And no worries if not. Do you by chance have anything on you that you can show us? You can walk us through?
Blah, 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 blah. I've got some things here.
Here we go.
You can't see it because the light's shining on it. These are just original drawings that's from Harry Potter. Sorry, the light is shining on that one, so you can't see it very, very well. So yeah, that's some frames from HP7, which would have been Harry meeting Rowena Ravenclaw's ghost in Hogwarts. It looks like I've had this prepared, doesn't it? These are actually frames that hang on the wall, but I've just decorated the studio, so that's why it's all very bare. These are some rough frames or rough drawings from Gravity that I've just mashed together. And then I would draw them like this, but then I'd cut and paste them into specific frames so they lay out on the page. These are some panels from Batman Begins. So I don't know if you can see those at all, but that's just a couple of pages.
That's amazing. Do you have anything from Dark Knight?
I don't have anything from Dark Knight to hand. No, normally what I do is I tend to archive everything. So I've got boxes of stuff, but I don't tend to keep anything on view because it's just attracts too much attention, really.
Well, regardless, it was amazing. Thank you so much for showing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's always cool to see before it gets on screen, to see, as a fan, I'm happy to see like behind the scenes stuff. So
that's what I enjoy so much. I'd rather have working drawings than finished full color artwork, because I think you get more information from it about the process than you do from a finished, beautiful piece of artwork.
In the group chat, Judah Ray said, "We're not worthy. Bow." Repeated bows.
No. You're all very worthy. Don't worry. All very, very worthy.
I'm sure you get this a lot, but what has been your favorite scene to draw? And as someone sitting in the movie theater, like you're like, oh wow, I drew that. Like, how cool is that? What was that big moment for you? Like, what was that particular scene?
Probably big moment was, oh gosh. I guess when you see a scene from a Bond movie that you've drawn, I guess that's when it hits home, because they are so iconic, especially in the UK. As a franchise, and the span of time and the number of films that they've covered, when you see a sequence that you've drawn for that, and you see your name and the credits and whatever, you suddenly think, oh, wow, actually, yeah, that's quite something. So, yeah, but I've been lucky. I've worked on a lot of relatively big movies and some successful movies, and I just enjoy the process of drawing and working out problems and resolving issues that you have either with the set or with dialogue or with logistics. So all of that just makes the job so much fun.
And how has COVID affected your work now? Are you doing a lot of drawing during this downtime?
I think we locked down in the UK at the end of March, around 20th of March. And on the 21st of March, there was 3 things that I was potentially up for, and they just stopped. And thankfully, I was doing a little bit of work for a director on the Halo TV series. So I had a few days here and there that we picked up, which kept me just about ticking over. But really, it was days between March and end of July.
Is this for Morbius?
No, that was for Halo.
Gotcha. Wow.
TV series that they're shooting over in Budapest.
Do you do a lot of work in the States, or is it mostly UK based? Because I mean, look at you. You have Spectre. You have all these. You have Harry Potter. So a lot of UK based stuff. Do you ever work in the States?
Not very often. Not very often at all. The stuff I did for Morbius was work on the end sequence, and that was working remotely as well. So no, I tend not to, not because I don't want to, just because I don't get asked. I mean, in the States, there's a lot of very, very good storyboard artists, and it's sometimes very difficult to import or transplant a UK national into the States to work. So I tend to work out of the UK, a little bit throughout Europe, depending on where films are shooting or where they're based at any given time.
I'm sure anyone on here right now would love to work with you. With that being said, let's turn it over to the audience. We have Michael, then Albert. So Michael, you're up.
Hey, Jim. Thanks you so much for being here. First of all, I just want to preface this by saying you've worked on pretty much all of the franchises that I'm obsessed with. Funny enough, I saw Return of the Jedi in the theaters when I was 3. I don't really remember it at that time, but it started like this journey to me with all that Harry Potter series and whatnot. My question kind of relates just to set up why. I'm a children's author, and I'm aligning my book with Operation Underground Railroad, as well as Beyond Freedom, Make a Film Foundation, which you may have heard of. I've hired an artist, and I'm doing all oil on canvas to transfer to the book. Now, relating to that, I'm choosing which boards to include as far as, for the different pages and whatnot. Within your scope, how much is left up to you to decide what gets chosen, drawn, how much is given by production, and what does that process entail?
Well, I always call myself the director's monkey, the director's pencil monkey. And that basically means that I'm working for him. So although I'm in the art department and I align very closely with production designers and visual effects and things like that, my primary goal is to satisfy what the director wants, because he'll take my images and he'll transfer them to the different departments to give them information. So he doesn't have to keep repeating himself. He can just refer to the same image and say, this is what I want to do. This is what happens. This is where it happens and how it happens. So it all comes from the director. Having said that, some directors are very, very shot specific. They'll want a close-up followed by a wide. They'll want a low angle followed by a high angle followed by a 2-shot and tracking round, pushing in. And other directors will be, have a look at scene 23 through to 28, see what you come up with, you interpret it, and then we'll go from there. So they're the two sides of things, and it's every point in between as well. So I obviously have an input because it's me that's drawing it, but it depends largely on how the director's feeling and how specific they want to be on how much or how the information differs.
Sure. And how much, like when you do get the more of an input or your choice, how do you go about choosing what you want to include as far as storyboards?
You've got to remember that film is sequential. So unlike a story where you wouldn't want to illustrate everything, you would just take the key elements. Filmically, you tend to, if it's a storyboard sequence, especially if it's action or visual effects, you would want to storyboard everything sequentially. So what I will do is I'll sit with the script, with the sequence that I have, and I will literally start to break it down. I'll just make notes on the script pages, 2 shots here, maybe we want to be low here, just verbally, just in words, just writing on the script. And then I'll take that and I'll break it down into a series of thumbnails, which will be very, very small, very rough sketches that only I can really understand, and work out how that works. And then I'll start to work on the panels when I've got my rough A to Z of how I'm going to move through the sequence in terms of shots, angles, and it's just taking the story. And it's the more closely you can relate to the story, whether it's dialogue or whether it's specific actions that happen, certain beats, you pick up on those, and they will sometimes dictate where the camera is going to be and how you're going to show that information.
Cool. Do you have a favorite?
Favorite?
It's something that you've done or that you've storyboarded. Would it be like the Bond films or?
I enjoyed working on the Bond films. I think my current favorite would be 1917, just because it was such a good collaborative effort and so much fun to just sit in a room with Roger Deakin and Sam Mendes and bash things out and try and get to conclusions of how things would work in terms of the storytelling and the set and the rigs that you needed to move the cameras, and that was great fun.
So brilliant. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Always good to have you on here, sir. Up next, we have Albert, followed by Rachel. Albert, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, good. I'm doing great. Thank you for having
Hey,
me.
Albert.
Love your background.
Yeah, it's my little background for my class, since I'm teaching virtual learning for my video production students. Yeah, but yeah, Jim, I had a question about you and maybe your environment when you storyboard. When you start from the beginning, when you first start, like, well, once the director tells you, you know, his vision and what he wants to create, where do you get your inspiration from when you start illustrating?
It's weird. I have a friend, and a friend of long standing, who's another storyboard artist, very well known. And he said, rather than trying to replicate everybody else, just try and be the best you that you can be. So in terms of influences, it's probably shots that maybe influence or settings that influence. But in terms of style, I try not to be influenced by drawing style, because I can't hope to replicate all the drawing styles. So I like to think that people have employed me because they like what I do and perhaps the way that I do it. So if I suddenly change, then they're not getting the person that they've employed. So I try and do it my way, but I'll just sit in an office. I'll just sit with the script. I'll start to break it down. Then when I'm drawing and I'm in the groove, maybe I'll put headphones on, I'll listen to an audio book and just let that flow over me while I just get into the work, and then I can just hit my straps and go for it. And that's the best environment, really, whether it's in my own studio or at studios at Shepperton, Pinewood, wherever it happens to be.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Albert. Up next, we have Rachel, followed by Philip. Rachel here's with us for the first time, so everyone say hi to Rachel.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
So first of all, I just have to say I'm like geeking out right now, because not only am I obsessed with the Harry Potter series, but also Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and I'm currently house sitting and I'm family friends with Christian Bale, who's across the street right now. So like my whole world is coming together in this moment. This is the peak of my life. No, but so I wanted to hear a little bit about your process with the Harry Potter franchise. Like, did you read all of the books to get the images in your head, or did you mostly kind of take what was in the script? Did you work with J.K. Rowling? Like, I just want to hear about that.
I worked on HP 5 through to 7A and 7B. So I did the 4 latter movies that were all directed by David Yates.
Cool. Yep.
I met David Yates whilst he was shooting a film that he was doing called Girl in Cafe, and he got me onto the Potters. I didn't read any of the books. I hadn't seen any of the films prior to, I saw HP 1 right at the very beginning, back in 2001, 2002, when it was released. And I hadn't seen any Potter films since. The advantage that I did have was you go into the Harry Potter art department, and it had been there in situ, the only film at the time that was really being made at Leavesden Studios, which was its home, for 5 years. And most of the guys that were in the art department had been on all of the films. So you walk in and there is a mass of information. There is a massive concept artwork, a massive reference material. There are archivists there. So all of that was at your fingertips. You just had to learn what it was and what the names were and enter this mad world. And the best asset of all was Stuart Craig, the production designer, who is an absolute star. He will always be an absolute star. And he just made our lives incredibly easy, because if there was a little hole in the knowledge, if we didn't quite know what things were, I remember on HP 5, I was drawing a sequence with the newspaper and trying to work out what Bellatrix Lestrange's escape from Azkaban would be.
Ah, brilliant.
And Stuart didn't know, nobody knew, because it was a new element. We'd never been to Azkaban, we'd only talked about it, we'd never really experienced it. And I went to see Stuart and I asked him, you know, Azkaban, what is it? Where is it going to be? kind of something like, I have a few ideas. Give me a few minutes and I'll get back to you. So I went back to my office and I carried on going through the script. And about 20 minutes later, Stuart knocks on my door and he's got a drawing. Not only has he got an isometric drawing, he's got a plan, he's got an elevation to scale, all in pencil, that he's just dodged out on, if I say the back of a cigarette packet, that's not strictly true, but you know the kind of thing I mean. It's very, very rough, very basic, but it's all there. The causeway up to the entrance, the shape being triangular, the waterfall, the water, it's all there. And when you've got somebody that's prepared to do that for you and can do it like that, with that skill, it doesn't half make your life so much easier because there is the fount of all knowledge. So that was so pleasurable to do it. And I've been fortunate to work with some other great production designers who just help you so much. But yeah, that was the introduction to the world of Harry Potter was very easy because of all that information.
That's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for telling us that.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Always good to see you for the first time. It's our first time on our group chat, so welcome. Up next we have Philip, and then it looks like Maria. So Philip, you're up.
Hi, thanks for being with us. Obviously, you've done some great work. I'm looking at your filmography, and obviously you've worked a lot on bigger projects, but as people working on smaller projects, I'm curious how much time you think we should allot to give to that kind of work, and how much you as an artist need to kind of complete generally a feature film, and how much, just how much time do you think every artist should give to you guys to kind of either contribute what you're going to bring or interpret what the director's vision is?
I suppose from a totally biased point of view, I think more time should be given to storyboarding. And the reason I think that is because it's a darn sight cheaper to storyboard things than it is to shoot the wrong thing. So the old adage is measure twice and cut once. Well, if you use that in the film sense, storyboard it until you absolutely know. If you get shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, you've got your sequence. Anything more than that is embellishment, and that's great. But if you know, especially if you're going to location, because it can be expensive with the crew and all your exteriors and everything, very time consuming, you might only get a day or 2 days at that location. So go knowing exactly what it is you've got to get and how you've got to get it. And then you know that you've got your sequence in the can. So that's why storyboarding is very important.
Oh, and I'm also curious, what is not helpful for you? Like what could a director or producer come and request of you that you're just like, that's too vague or not specific enough? Is there something that's not helpful?
I wouldn't say not helpful. It's not my place to say what's helpful or not, because the director might think that storyboards for a particular sequence would be helpful. But I tend to dissuade directors from, a director will come to me and he says, so we've got this conversation in a room and it's A talking to B. So we want to storyboard that. And I will say, well, so what's happening? What is special that means that we need storyboards for it? Have we got set extensions? No. Have we got visual effects? No. Have we got a peculiar camera move or development that suddenly takes us somewhere else? No. So why do we need to storyboard it? Because any director worth his salt would know how to shoot the two-header to get the information and the story that he wants. And that's time that's better spent doing something that you need to inform more people on.
Yeah. How much do you deal with directors with really shitty drawing skills, like trying to like interpret what they're trying to say?
Most of them. That's why they're directors. That's why they're a director and I'm a storyboard artist. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of them, not all of them. You know, but hey, they go and shoot and I go and draw. So you know, that's the division of labor. So I don't mind that. You know, they can give me a written shot list, a verbal shot list, a drawn shot list, no shot list at all, and I will work it out to the best of my ability, given what they say. You know, that's how my job works. But yeah, and that's the fun element of it. You know, trying to read between the lines and work out what it is they want.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Philip. Up next, we have Maria. Maria from Scotland. Your
Hi.
neighbor, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hey,
I'm
Maria,
actually
how are you?
lovely to meet you. I'm doing well.
Good, good.
I'm actually a producer in film and TV, but I'm also a published children's author and an illustrator.
Uh-huh.
And I use storyboards in all my films. I think it's really, really important. If you to storyboard any film in history that you haven't done, what would you have storyboarded? And do you like the new anachromics? Like because of lockdown, there's a lot of people using storyboards to make content and create content. In lockdown, have you been more creative, or have you been less creative in lockdown?
Starting with the last question first, I've probably been less creative in lockdown. Probably because I just have the time to go and do things with my family and to go and exercise, and I don't want to be stuck in behind a drawing board if I absolutely don't need to be. But now I feel mentally that I need to be. I've had a bit of a break and it's been great. I've recharged the batteries, but now, you know, the old brain is saying, go out and do something creative. So content, I've not really been aware of a great deal of what you're talking about in terms of the animatic and the content that's been created, probably because I have just not looked for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, trying to steer clear of it, a little bit of a busman's holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And a film that I would love to have done the original Alien.
Absolutely.
It's a huge favourite film of mine. I'm tempted to say Singing in the Rain because that's probably my favourite film of all time. But I don't know that there'd have probably been too much call for storyboarding in that. So yeah, let's go with Alien. Alien or 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of those two.
Yeah.
You can get too far wrong with those.
When I was like 7, I went to see the original Star Wars, and that what got me into being a filmmaker and creative. So that's where I just thought it's amazing. So stay safe in lockdown. Take care of yourself, and thank you so much for coming forward. I'm totally geeking out. So I'm such a big fan of your work.
Take care. All the best.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Hey folks, I wasn't sure if I missed it in the group chat. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask Jim? You can feel free to just unmute yourself and step in. Going once, going twice. No. Folks, once again, if you have not done so yet, please tag OUR on social media. That is R Rescue on Instagram. I believe it's the same thing for Twitter. I'll double check it, but R Rescue. We don't have a @ sign on this board, but it is @R Rescue. Jim, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, sir.
You're very welcome.
I know you were like hours ahead. Maybe it's 8 or 9 there, but I appreciate you taking the time out to be here with us today. And we'll see you again, man. And hopefully we can have you back for anything. Oh, does someone have a question?
Yeah. I have one more question.
Here we go.
Yeah, sure.
I had to think about it really quick. Jim, do you have any recommendations on just starting out storyboarding and how you could, get known, like just, figure ways and doors for, us to open, and, would you just start like, illustrating first, or how did you get in the door, and how did you start off?
My first suggestion would be practice, which sounds very flippant and a dreadful thing to say, but it really is just keep on practicing, keep on drawing, keep on looking at different camera angles, different camera techniques, look at anatomy. If you can't draw the human figure, you'll never draw storyboards. If you can't grasp perspective, it's going to be very, very difficult. So get a good grounding in the basics, and then look at things like composition. Look at the way that you can generate atmosphere or tension, fear. See how horror films vary from comedies. See how the placement of the camera influences the way that the audience feel. And all those little tricks, you can then start to build up an inventory, a knowledge, and therefore that will inform your visual language of how you create certain atmospheres or certain tensions within a frame, and practice, keep practicing that. And how do you get more known? I would have to say that luck is a huge part of it. You do have to be incredibly lucky, but then you can make your own luck by practicing, by being in the right place at the right time, by putting yourself out, by a good work ethic, being friendly, helpful, cheerful, and by trying to get better, which sounds an odd thing to say, but the more you practice, the more you'll get better, the more you'll enjoy it, the more the returns will be, and the more you'll get better and the more you'll practice and the more the returns will be. And it'll spiral, it'll gather speed, and before you know it, you will start working on bigger projects and you'll make a bigger network of friends and people that like the way that you do things, the way you carry yourself, the way you react in a group of people, the way that you can contribute to the film. So yeah, I think that's it. Just keep on trying and keep on practicing.
I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome. Take care.
You too.
Armand, I throw a question out there real
Oh
quick.
yeah. What's up, Brian?
Hey guys. Hey Armand.
Hi.
Hey,
Hey, Brian.
Oh, sorry. So let's do Brian and then Nancy. Sorry, guys. I know it's a free for all at the end. Let's go Brian and then Nancy.
That's cool. Well, Jim, really pleasure to meet you. You know,
Thank
so
you,
many
Brian.
projects that you made, and I'm a U.S. veteran, so I was in Iraq, Afghanistan with UK and coalition forces. So I just want to give a lot of props on 1917, of course. So, but another question. You know, many of us are producers, writers. You know, different on the creative space, but you know, more producing on my side. How effective do you think, you know, having good storyboards going into any kind of pitch are? You know, we have Bibles and television and we have different projects, but, you know, do you think that it's really good to have, you know, 3 to 5 storyboards when you're going into pitch so that, you know, buyers can see how things look and how it might get shot? You know, what are your thoughts there?
I would say probably at a pitch state, you may be better off having some keyframes or concept art, because as things go further down the production line, budgets change, scripts get rewritten, sets change, locations change, and before you know it, those storyboards that you've invested a lot of time in earlier in the production, you look at them and go, well, that's not relevant, that's not relevant, that's not relevant, that's not relevant. We've got to storyboard it again. From my point of view, so many films are American-based. By that, I mean they're financed in America, they are developed in America, and then they come over to the UK to shoot. And by the time they come over to the UK to shoot, they're employing UK storyboard artists to redraw everything because the scripts have changed. So from a pitch point of view, you may have one sequence, maybe it's your key action sequence that you really want to show how it ratchets up in terms of the tension and the action. Board that. But other than that, I would say go for some really great, really atmospheric keyframes or concept art, because they're the money shots, if you like. You know, they're the beauty passes. Storyboards tend to be in black and white or monochromatic, grays, browns, whatever. So there's so many of them, people can't see the wood for the trees unless they know what they're looking at. So yeah, I would tend to say maybe look at concept art for the sell, and once you've got the money in the back pocket, then storyboard it, because you're that much further down the process and you're that much nearer to actually creating something that you're going to shoot rather than something that you're just going to try and pull people in with.
Thanks so much, Jim. Be safe
You're
where you
very
are.
welcome. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Brian, how you doing, sir? Up next, we have we're going with Nancy. Let's go with Nancy.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Nancy. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
Good, good.
Okay. My question is, I'm like, I can draw a little bit, but my drawing skills are pretty limited. I have done those storyboards for my own projects. And you know, sometimes that's like not really being able to draw that well. It's really difficult. So I was wondering what you think about like storyboarding software that uses like maybe either stick figure characters or pre-drawn characters or things like that. And also if you have any suggestions on like the best ones to use, if you like
I'm not familiar with any storyboarding software. I think we said at the start of the interview, I tend to use just Photoshop and rely on my own hand-eye coordination, which is probably a little bit dodgy. But it's perfectly legitimate. If it gives you what you need from a storyboard, then it's absolutely fine. And I know that lots of people do use it. For me, it's a little bit soulless, it's mechanical. And I find that a lot of people actually like something that is hand rendered, because that's the art side of it. That's the art element, the interpretation. But as I say, if budgets are limited and you can't stretch to employing people to do it, then it's a perfectly legitimate way of doing, of creating a storyboard. And if you're the person that needs to read that storyboard and get the information from it, then that will make it easier again, because you know what you need. And if it's a small group that are using the storyboards, then it becomes easier to interpret. So I'm not a huge fan, but then I'm probably biased because it puts me out of a job. So they're legitimate, and if you can make it work for you, then why not?
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, I do prefer the drawing, but I just don't have those skills. So yeah.
And that's why there's people like me that that fortunately just about make a living from it.
Yes, definitely. All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Take care.
Thank you so much, Nancy. We have one more. Let's go Victoria, then we're going to a break, folks, and then we'll follow up with our next session. So up next, we have Victoria.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Victoria.
Hi. Okay, so I'm not really sure how the whole storyboarding thing works, like with the process and everything, but I was just wondering, like, do you have you ever come up with like some beautiful, eloquent vision of what it's supposed to look like, and then they come out with, oh, well, we're filming in this location, so it has to change things. Like, how does that sort of coincide with location filming, or do they let you know like beforehand? You know what I mean? Like, how do they merge?
It depends when in the process you're brought on.
Okay.
In terms of when you're taking on the crew for the film. For 1917, for example, because I'd done Spectre and Skyfall with Sam Mendes, 1917 I worked on for just over a year. So I was in my studio in the summer just working through different ideas of this whole kind of one-shot perception of what was happening. And I went ludicrously OTT, so bizarre, with flying cameras and drone shots, and then handoffs and down by the feet, walking through the trenches and everything, so it was way out and wacky. But as time goes on, then you start to discover that what the locations are, what the sets are going to be, what the limitations of rigs are that the camera's moving on, and it slowly brings you back down to earth, and you start to see what the limitations are, and that then informs you what you can do, what's possible. Obviously I've got Roger Deakin over my shoulder saying, I can't afford to do that, or we can't do that, but maybe we can do this. And so you're drawing on people's experiences and their expertise to help inform what you're doing. So it's all of those things, really. You start by flying by the seat of your pants and having fun and being way out there, and then slowly you get pulled back in by budget limitations, by producers saying you can't do that, by directors saying I don't really have the time to shoot that, and so you get pared down to actually what you can do. But you've got to have a little bit of fun along the way, and you've got to try and experiment and push a few boundaries, and that way you can start to see what is possible and what isn't. It's asking questions, really, both visually and orally, to get some sort of answers. And sometimes you have to poke the bear and just do something that's absolutely ridiculous and visually spend a load of money to get people to pay attention and suddenly go, whoa, hang on a minute, we can't do that, but maybe we can do this. So it's teasing to a degree, but that's the part of trying to work out different processes and trying to get to the bottom of what's actually required for the film.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, it's cool hearing from the storyboard sort of point of view because, we've all worked on sets. We've all, we know everybody has a different vision and then, one thing happens and it's like a whole monkey wrench, time-wise and everything else, kind of trying to get everything to meet up. So it's interesting to hear like from a perspective I've never really thought about before.
Yeah, I mean, I've done
Yeah.
sequences for the Potter films, Rachel, for the Potter films where I've drawn sequences 14 times. Because they've changed, because they've been rewritten, because the sets changed, the actions changed, because the budget's impacted on what we can and can't do, because the shooting schedule is impacted on what we can and can't do. So there's all those variables, and that's, that's why it takes 10 months to go from pre-production to when you start shooting a movie. So yeah, it's just part and parcel of the glorious process.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Jim, it's been such a pleasure. Everyone give a round of applause to Jim Cornish. Jim, where can we find you on social media if you have any pages to share?
My website is jdcillustration.com. I don't really venture into the wonderful world of Twitter or anything like that. I find that my mouth gets me in enough trouble as it is, so I steer clear of that. But yeah, jdc illustration. That's the best place. That's my website, and that's got different work on there and samples, and you can get in touch through there. So,
my man, thank you so much, Jim. It's been such a pleasure.
You're very welcome.
Everyone, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and we'll be back with Brandon Campbell.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.